Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Royals Rundown podcast presented by RoyalsReview.com. I am one half of the team here, Jacob Milham, joined this afternoon by the one and only Ryan Lefebvre, one of the many voices and faces of the Kansas City Royals. Ryan, how we doing? Good. Glad to hear. And listen, I have the pleasure of having Ryan on today because we want to make sure that all of our listeners out there fully understand and are aware of the many ways that they can tune in and listen to games this season. Because Ryan, like you were saying, there's a lot more options this go around, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think more clear options for fans, especially when it comes to streaming. And we're in a interesting era of broadcasting baseball now with the transition to cable and satellite to more streaming, although cable and satellite is still a big part of the picture. And I've been doing this long enough now that I remember back in the mid to late 80s when teams were making these huge commitments to putting games on cable TV, and people are like, you can't do that. I mean, so many people don't have cable TV. They're not going to be able to watch the games. And it wasn't long after that that just about every single game was on cable TV. So I feel like I've kind of been through this one before. But you couldn't take your satellite dish with you on the road. You couldn't take your cable box with you when you went on vacation or you went out of state. And so we're to a point right now where I think a lot of bugs have been ironed out. I mean, we here at Kauffman Stadium, we heard about some of the complaints in previous years with problems with the app and blackouts for home games. And so now there's a couple of great options. One of them is being associated with Amazon Prime now. And how in the world did we ever survive before Amazon? I mean,
I don't know.
The Amazon truck, I feel like, is driving by my house every single day. And my kids are having conversations with Alexa every single day. And if they want to watch if they want to watch their favorite TV show and watch 3 in a row, they can. I mean, when I was a kid, you had to wait once a week until your favorite show came on. So
you had to get the old TV
Royals
guy.
baseball is part of that. That's right. They don't know what that is. So yeah, with the FanDuel Sports Network app now, you can either buy it directly to consumer, and the blackouts are gone, and a lot of the glitches are gone. And now, if you have Amazon Prime, there's a way to connect as an add-on subscription, either monthly or the season pass. And since we're having a conversation, and I don't have to condense this to a soundbite. One of the things I heard a lot from fans, and I understand, is in the transition to the streaming, a lot of fans will say, "Well, I don't want to have to pay for the Royals. I didn't used to have to pay for the Royals." Well, yes, you did. Part of your cable bundle package, when you got the bill, there you may not have seen the actual fee to watch the Royals on Fox Sports Kansas City or Bally Sports Kansas City, but part of your cable bundle included a fee to watch the Royals. You just didn't realize that was part of the entire package. And so now it's down to a monthly fee of $19.99. The season pass is $99.99, and if you break it down, it's 65 cents per game to watch the Royals. And you're going to spend, if you come to a game in person, you're going to probably spend a lot more than that just by parking and the tickets and the concessions. And so it's, from a streaming standpoint, Jacob, I think it's never been easier to find the Royals and watch the Royals. And if you don't have a need for streaming and you're still a cable or satellite provider, even though the name of the network has changed, the games are still on the same channels that you've been watching.
Well, excellent. Thank you for all that, Ryan. And I want to talk about spring training and all that later on. But while we're talking about broadcasting, I do have to mention this is going to be Denny Matthews' 57th year on the horn for the Royals, I think. I mean, I don't know about all the Royals fans out there, but I absolutely love Denny, and I love the knowledge and the passion that he brings to the game. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like calling games with him and having his experience in the booth?
Well, I don't know, Jacob, if there's anybody who's meant more to me as a Royals broadcaster than Denny Matthews has. And it's been a long time now, but when I arrived in 1999 and Fred White had been let go, there were people who spent their entire childhoods listening to Denny and Fred, and especially in the glory years of the Royals in the 70s and the 80s. And I am a 28-year-old coming down, having broadcasted for the Minnesota Twins. I had no connection to the area at all. And I had an idea of what I was getting myself into. And Denny received me this is kind of a strong word, but he received me as an equal in our very first inning of our very first spring training game. It was apparent right away at Old Baseball City in 1999 that we were going to get along, and that we saw the broadcast the same way. He shared a lot what Buddy Blattner had shared with him when Denny got the job in 1969, and here I am 30 years later, and Denny's passing it on to me. But the way that he received me, Jacob, the credibility that he gave me on the air, our stories were very similar. We both played college baseball. Both of our fathers were heavily involved with baseball. His father was a coach. My father was a coach. And so we had that perspective as, I say former players, but I mean, we were college players. It's not like we were major league players, but we both tried to see the game as a former player, as in the moment, what's happening with the game right now, not trying to explain what happened, either good or bad. And we gelled right away. And now here I am, 26 years later, and doing mostly games on television, but the team allows me to do 30 games on radio. And truth be told, they allow me to make my own schedule when it comes to the 30 radio games. And if you've noticed, I do all of them at home so that I can work with Denny.
That's excellent. I love to hear that. And I'm sure I don't want to speak for you, but I would imagine it kind of feels a little bit full circle with, Jake Eisenberg joining the team full time recently. I mean, shoot, you're probably about the same number of years, in your career as Denny was when he really took you under his wing, huh?
Yeah, it is very much full circle. I mean, Denny was doing Royals games 3 years before I was born. Put that in perspective. And I'm 54 years old. Not like I'm 25. I mean, I'm 54 years old. Jake was born the year that I started with the Minnesota Twins, 1995.
Wow.
Denny is my father's age, and I was 28 years old when I started with the Royals. Jake was 28 years old when he started with the Royals, and I'm his father's age. So yeah, there's a lot of a full circle when you look at when I arrived with Denny and when Jake arrived with me being here. I say Jake arrived with me, but he's also been influenced quite a bit by Denny, as you would imagine.
Excellent. Moving on to today. We're recording this on Tuesday, but it is crazy to think that, spring training has come and gone. The dreary winter days are behind us, and opening day, the Kansas City Royals are kicking things off against the Cleveland Guardians on March 27th there in Kauffman Stadium. Before I talk about the on-field product, I do want to get your perspective on one thing that I feel like Royals fans underestimate. Since 2015, the Royals have hosted 9 of the 11 opening days there in Kauffman Stadium. I don't know about you, Ryan, but I think that's an absolute treat that you get to kick off the season in your own stadium. Or am I alone in this, Ryan? Am I the crazy one here?
I had heard that before, but it makes sense because it does seem like we are home for opening day. Whether we open at opening day or not at home, we're going to have a home opener, So when we're done with the Guardians, we'll go to Milwaukee, and that'll be their home opener. And I'm sure the people in Wisconsin feel like, it's opening day to them. But yeah, I think it's a little extra special to be able to be at home for the first game of the season.
Excellent. All right, now let's get on to spring training. How is things in Arizona? This isn't your first rodeo down there. I'm sure you have your routine and things like that, but how do you feel about the Royals exiting spring training?
Well, speaking of Denny, I'm gonna steal a line from him because I remember when we first started working together, he would laugh when he would call home and someone would say, "Hey Denny, how does the team look?" And Denny's answer always was, "Well, I don't know. I haven't seen the team." Because, for a spring training game, only half the guys typically play in a game, and they only play for half the game. So it doesn't really come together as like, we don't have a week where the starting 9 are together and the starters go 5, 6, 7 innings and the bullpen's lined up like it would be if you were going for a win. So it's the one time of year that we spend more time looking at the individual performances, wondering how veterans look, wondering how younger players who made their mark last year, how did they look in spring training? And when I say how they look, sometimes it's how do they look physically? Have they put on some weight? Are they trying to drive the ball more this year? If they're a veteran player, maybe have they lost some weight as father time is raining down on them and they're trying to find a way to extend their career. There's the young players that we just want to put eyes on. I'm able to come home a couple of times during spring training. I'm not down there for an entire month. I get to come home a couple of times to break it up. I have 4 kids, and so it's nice to come home. And when I was home, the 2 times, all anybody wanted to talk about was Jack Caglione. So then I'm the same as the fans. I mean, I want to see what Jack Caglione looks like. I mean, I want to see what his swing looks like. And so in some ways, it's not necessarily the team that I'm watching in spring training. It's just the unknowns. What are some of the question marks that we might have during the regular season? Those are the things that I look at in spring training, because we never really get to see how the team looks until opening day.
Ryan, there's a lot that any baseball fan can look forward to on opening day, but I do want to focus on the Royals with this. There's a lot of reasons to believe in this team. I'm sure even for the most pessimistic fan, there are more reasons to believe than not believe this year. What is one reason that you believe in the 2025 Kansas City Royals to have success this season?
Well, they didn't do it with smoke and mirrors last year. I mean, I think a lot of what they did last year is sustainable. They're athletic. They play good defense, and those 2 things usually show up every day and normally go into long slumps. And they have a strong starting rotation. And I know the game has changed quite a bit, where the emphasis on starters isn't what it was 20 years ago, because the bullpens are so good and it's harder to hit. It's harder to hit because you rarely see a starting pitcher 3 times in one game. And I can remember when pitchers pitched a lot deeper into the game, and you might see a starter 4 times in one game. But now you see him twice, and here comes a guy throwing 100 miles an hour, followed by another guy throwing 100 miles an hour, another guy throwing 100 miles an hour. However, if your starting pitching is strong, not just in success, but the amount of innings that they can pitch, I mean, that just sets up everything else on the team. It takes the weight off of the bullpen. And if your bullpen's not very good, but they have to pitch a high amount of innings every game, or more times than not over the course of a week, I mean, that's going to be exposed. And if your starting pitching is good, then the opposing team is probably not scoring a lot. And if they're not scoring a lot, you can come to the ballpark and say, hey, if we can push together 4 runs, we have a good chance to win. Your starting pitching is bad, and you go to the ballpark. I mean, even the best teams, if they're going to the ballpark thinking we're going to have to score 6, 7, 8 runs to win the game, it doesn't usually work out that way. The staples of the team last year: pitching, defense, good starting pitching, and a much better bullpen on opening day than it was last year. I guess the only question mark is how well the Royals are going to hit with runners in scoring position. I mean, they made a tremendous leap forward last year, and they had, and I'm sure you break down the numbers as much, if not more, than I do. But if you look at the lineup last year, I mean, beyond Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvador Perez, I mean, there were holes all over that lineup. Those 3 were so good. I mean, they were the first trio in the big leagues to all drive in 60 runs, the first trio to drive in 70, 80, 90, and would have been 100 if Vinny hadn't gotten hurt at the end of August. So I think you have 3 good hitters, but you had 3 good hitters who had exceptional seasons. They're going to need a lot more support from the other 6 positions. So if Jonathan India does what the Royals want him to do, then those 3 aren't going to have to do what they did last year. If Kyle Isbell, presumably, and Michael Garcia are going to be sharing center field, and they can bat 9th, and they can get on base before Jonathan India gets on base, well, then, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, and Salvi don't quite have to do what they did last year. If MJ Melendez adjustments this year help the offense, that takes a load off. And that's the guy I'm really interested in, Jacob, because he hit 17 home runs last year and had 44 RBIs. I mean, that's hard to do. And if you break it down even beyond that, he had 12 RBIs last year without a home run. 12. And then you look at Vinny, who had 97 RBIs last year. And I'm old school in that I believe there is a such thing as a run producer.
Mm-hmm.
That it's a mindset. And when there's a chance to drive in a run, guys know how to drive in runs. And there's a lot of players in the game today that only have one way to drive in a run, and that's hit the ball over the fence. So you put a runner at third with less than 2 outs, and they've been spending 95% of their time trying to hit the ball over the fence, that when there's a runner at third and less than 2 outs, they don't really know how to do that. And if you're facing Garrett Cole in April and it's 48 degrees outside, you're probably not going to hit a home run off of a pitcher of that caliber. You got to find other ways to drive in runs. And I think Vinny, in a very short period of time, has become a run producer. And I hope that MJ watched him and saw that Vinny drove in some runs with a broken bat. He drove in some runs with a ground ball. He drove in some runs with a bloop to the outfield. So anyway, that's a long answer to your short question. I'm confident about the pitching and the defense and the athleticism. My concern would be, and I'll say the other 5, because I think we're pretty confident that Jonathan India is going to be very good at the leadoff spot. I'm just want to see how the other 5 are going to complement that lineup.
Okay. I like that, Ryan. Well, Ryan, before we get on out of here, so you were very upfront. You only call 30 games a year on the radio nowadays, unfortunately. Where can fans tune in to hear you on the call?
Yeah, the Royals have 2 great options this year, and a lot of the concerns, a lot of the glitches that we've had in the past have been cleared up. If you're an Amazon Prime fan, well, with an add-on subscription, you can watch the Royals right on Amazon Prime. If you want to buy the app standalone, the FanDuel Sports Network, you're looking at $19 a month and $99 for a season pass to watch the Royals with no blackouts. I know that's been a big complaint the past few years. And you're looking at paying about 65 cents per game. So we're excited. When I say we, the organization, we're excited for the new opportunities for streaming as we enter into this new era. I know FanDuel Sports Network is very excited as well because they're aware of some of the concerns, and they've spent a lot of time taking it in-house and pairing with Amazon Prime, who has a great history of being able to stream whatever you need. In addition to, if you're a cable subscriber, a satellite subscriber, the channels where you've watched the Royals in the past, those are the channels where you'll be able to see the Royals this year. You got it, Jacob. Good talking with you.